Welcome to the show. Basketball is
Good evening, and welcome to the latest edition of Drie, Bokke. Hang on, was it? Drie, Bokke and BlitzBOD. Join me as ever, my right-hand man, the man who makes me, well, I don't know, he saves me, I think, most weeks. GMAN, how are you, mate?
Andy, all well, thanks yourself.
Yeah, getting there. There's been a heck of a lot going on off the pitch in the last couple of weeks since we were last on, and I must say I've got to thank everyone for the feedback on the last show, because we were getting messages all left, right, and centre of how people really enjoyed it, and obviously Angus's story continued long into the night, as they say. So if you want to look at, just Google Zout and Angus Opperman, and you'll get some answers. I know he's watching tonight. Right, we got a jam-packed show, so I reckon we just get cracked on with it. So first guest, he's another regular. He's a usual face you'll see on Drie, Bokke. You've seen him across BlitzBOD a load. Bit of a fan's favourite, this man. So let me welcome Mr. Reenen STENEKAMP.
Evening, James. Evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Reenen.
Hope you guys are well.
Yeah. We're all good, mate. We're all good. I'm sat in an office at 9 o'clock at night, but that's all right. I get to see your beautiful face, mate. Slightly blurred, but it's all right.
At least curfew's extended, so you can stay there. And you can have what you're having over there.
Yeah, very true. It's just water, I promise.
Brilliant stuff. Well, gents, what a week of news. I mean, we've been hearing one specific topic for the past few months. Obviously, Sharks, Kolisi. And now it's officially official. After 11 years of loyal service to his province, Kolisi has now signed on for the Sharks, and what should be a very interesting occasion for rugby fans. I mean, obviously, I think the Western Province fans are going to be a bit heartbroken, but it's a new opportunity for Sia. And before we get into the debate, I want to actually credit everyone's been going on with the money talk and all that, and we're going to get into the investments and all that. One note to make for Sia, and I think he deserves a little bit of credit here. He didn't go overseas for something that could have given him double or triple of what he's earning. He kept his loyalties to South Africa, and that's not many who do that. So for that, I do give Sia credit, although I know he's joined my squad over there. But it's interesting times. Gents, what's your take on it?
Well, Gareth, I agree with you. He could have probably, we won't know what offers he had on the table,
sure.
But there would have been several. I mean, this is a big fish to catch. I enjoy the fact that he's staying. He's picking up a new shovel, for lack of a better word. He's starting off a whole new thing.
Yes.
But I have it on good authority that he actually signed 2 deals with the Sharks, one in his playing capacity and one in respect of more of a representative capacity, and that he's going to build out the image of the Sharks. And the current Springbok captain who won and lifted the World Cup not very long ago, what better face do you want? So that's some good business there. That's some good thinking, and also, but I like the fact he's going to influence and reach so many new people now. He's been in Cape Town for so long, so this is like a whole fresh thing. I like it. It's going to be interesting to follow.
I think also sorry, Andy, it's almost similar to what Dan Carter did with the Auckland Blues last year. He came in as a leadership, it's inspiring / payroll, but unfortunately got injured. But I think that's something we can see. And I think from the communities, because the Sharks Academy is so big and doing quite well, he could be a major influence, as to what you said, to inspire the communities. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I think there's 2 interesting factors from someone, I suppose, I say this a lot, I know, outsider looking in as in a non-South African. I think it's quite clear that part of this deal is for commercial reasons. Sia comes with great commercial value. There's no doubt about it, and so he should. Like, what he does off the pitch is outstanding. I mean, from a player's perspective, I don't know if Joe can just bring up the graphic that I made up earlier on this how weird to see it look at Sharks in a Sharks top for a start. But if we can look at the list of back rows that they've got at the Sharks already, I mean, that's a pretty. He's going to link up with his old mate Notche as well. We know Ivan Roos has just gone to Western Province on loan. That's fine. James Fenton's only just come in, and maybe, you know, Mtembu and David's are probably more towards the 7 side. That's fine. But that's a list that most franchises would be extremely happy with. So I'm not, and that's what leads me to believe that, you know, that there are certain commercial reasons behind it. And I'm not having a go about that at all. I think it's a very shrewd move for both of them. And the other point I must bring up about this is the way Sia has been in the press and the media the last few days. Few things have stuck out for me. He said that he blatantly said no to Western Province, a new deal. He's intimated that he's paid the transfer fee himself to get out of it early. And I think the final comment he said on the day of his, was it yesterday, the press conference, the day before, he said, "I woke up happy this morning." That speaks volumes to me on what's going on in Western Province at the moment. It speaks volumes to me that a man who has shown such loyalty to Western Province for 11 years, and I'm sure he has been tempted or tried to be tempted away many times. But I suppose, Reenen, from your point of view, and looking at that list that we just shown there, from a playing perspective, what does Sia bring that's different to what they've already got there? If I put yourself, try and get into Shane Everett's head, if you like.
No, that's fine. And yeah, I'm so glad you asked me this question, because I want to add just another angle to this. Once this Pro 16 thing reaches liftoff, and the possibility of Challenge and or Champions Cup gets added to that, because the rumors are that that's going to be in the offing. That's going to be the kind of squad that these teams will need, because to play in those competitions, that's what you need. You know, the moment you got an injury or two, then already, even just looking at it like that, they're going to be on the level where they can't afford anything else. So no, that's very good for the Sharks that they've got that in the back row, but they're going to need to beef up on the centers and fullback and all over the place. But where Sia will fit in there, will fit in like a hand in a glove. That guy, remember, he played for the Stormers in Western Province for such a long time. He played in an ever-changing, evolving Springbok setup. So adaptation for him isn't an issue. And he was captain, remember that. He had to not only play in an ever-changing system, but also captain it successfully, which he did. So, but word is he's not going to captain the Sharks. That Lukhanyo Am's going to keep on being the captain, which is fine. You know, he saw that.
I think that'll benefit Sia. I think Sia will be a better player for it.
I think he will too.
We saw that with the Blues.
He's starting to become defined by being a captain rather than a player.
Yes.
And I think in moving away from being a captain, this could actually define him as a player, because he does divide opinion on his playing ability. Let's not sugarcoat it. There are some people who believe that if he wasn't the captain of probably the Springboks, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, that maybe he's not the best person. Now he can just go in there, he can be a leader, and the pressure of the captaincy and the spotlight will eventually fade on him, while he's there. So yeah.
I honestly think this is going to be a great move for him, from like we said, a playing point of view, and I think for him it's going to excite him just as much as maybe a lot of us who have heard those types of comments that Andrew just mentioned. For him to now just go on and, you know what, play the game for the love of the game and just have a lot of fun, whether he's playing, whether he's on the bench, whether he's a water boy or a leader, a helper, you know. All those type of things. I mean, let's not forget when Sia was water boy for, I think, one of the World Cup games. it was a hell of a moment because we thought we'd lost the captain and he was still there and an inspirational figure. So I think all those things are going to motivate him. And just to add also to what Reenen was saying, not just he was there for Stormers and adapting to the Springboks, but before that, he was with the Eastern Province sides before he got to the Stormers, and also Grey High School, and before that, the township schools. So he's managed to transform and do things that I think a lot of people forget about. And I think all that experience and motivation and challenges and hard times is going to go into inspire more players out there. We're going to hear more stories like what we've heard of Mapimpi and all the other guys. I think it's going to be really great.
But Gareth, if I could just add very quickly, the line I want to draw to the Blues of years and years back when Sean Fitzpatrick was All Blacks captain and Zinzan Broek was captain of the Blues, and the Blues won the Super Rugby title something like 2 times in 3 years, something with that setup. And the All Blacks were very strong at the time as well. So that is a very doable thing. Really, it works. So it's not strange at all.
And I always go back to what Peter de Villiers told us a couple of weeks ago on radio. It comes down to not 15 men or the whole team. It comes down to certain players that give you the inspiration. He once said, like the All Blacks, you look at them in the past, it came down to guys like Dan Carter, Richie McCaw. You didn't hear often of the other guys. So for the Sharks' sake, it's going to come down to a Siya Kolisi that could be that edge or inspiration that the Sharks need. Because I mean, I've watched and I've been frustrated with this team because it's hot and cold. Now maybe he can be the inspirational answer because the guys are like, wow, we got Captain Siya, look what he's achieved. And maybe they can go the extra mile to finally win us a cup.
And there's a few Western Province boys that look like they're also moving. Toronto Augustus is looking like he signed a couple of year contract at Northampton. Some would say he's probably underachieved maybe since his heroics as a sort of age group player. But just quickly before we move on to the next section, the big rumours around Damien Willemse at the moment. I think this is very much like the Siya rumours. I think it's probably a badly kept secret. It looks like he's off to the Bulls. Another man, Reenen, who could do with a move, I believe, and what would go into the Bulls to get mentored by Morné Steyn potentially do for Damien Willemse?
I think Gareth mentioned it earlier, Dan Carter at the Blues last year. Just the presence of the guy. Didn't even play a single game. Okay, injury saw to that, but still. You could see individual players just get better due to his hand, kicking out of hand and decision-making center. That was all Dan Carter's work that you could see there. The trained eye could see that easily. I can see very much the same thing happen here, Morné Steyn knows for a fact that he hasn't got years left. It was telling to me in the Currie Cup final when Morné Steyn was replaced. I think it was just before extra time. And I thought to myself, what are they doing? You cannot take that guy off. And all right, still won the game. So they've got the necessary belief in their younger players. And that is what Morné Steyn brings. He brings that, he instills that team in those players. He did it at Start Francais. He's doing it at the Bulls as well. So I say that's a brilliant move.
Yeah, awesome. Well, luckily we are going to get some more rugby very, very soon. So I'm going to ask GMAN to introduce his fellow provincial habitants into the show, if you would mind, GMAN.
No, sure. It's always a pleasure talking to fellow Eastern Capers, and we've got great guests in our members from the EP squad. So welcome to the boys who are joining us. Inny, former Shark as well, and Christopher. Welcome, guys, to the show. We're glad you could join us.
Well, guys, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Inny, how's it? I'm going to jump straight in with you because obviously you've let's be honest, you've made a few headlines in the last few weeks, whether that's locally or nationally. You've sort of it's been made that you've made a bit of a comeback from the wilderness, if you like, after your Shark stint and injuries and everything. How is it to be back on the field and training regularly with the boys?
Really, really awesome. I think the last 2 years, the last 2 years since leaving the Sharks have obviously been really tough. Not really knowing where my next game is going to come from. Am I going to get another professional contract? Things like that. That really has been tough. I've obviously played a lot of club rugby, but it's you can't compare that to the top level of rugby now. So, to be part of a professional setup again is really, really awesome. Feeling that I've missed, and the squad that we have at the moment make you feel so comfortable. So it's really easy to just slot right in and do your thing.
And Chris, from your perspective, obviously we don't need to talk about the and what happened with the Kings, but obviously you were involved there, and you obviously get a certain amount of resources when you're a franchise, as opposed to sort of I don't mean this in any derogatory way, like an amateur setup, as in, obviously the Elephants aren't the Kings, they're not a franchise, so to speak. But how's the feeling in camp at the moment compared to how it was with the Kings, even though you probably had more resources with the Kings?
Yeah, well, so obviously at the Kings it was a bit more of a professional setup, but I think, as it would be in every team, after a couple of losses or bad performances, the guys started getting a bit edgy with each other. At the moment, the vibe in the camp is very good, and there's a lot of excitement going around, and I think a lot of the guys are very keen to play Coach Peter as well. So, at the moment, I can't fault the vibe or the sort of energy around camp at all.
Glenn, it definitely seems to, from a Eastern Cape point of view, definitely a different vibe. With the Kings, like you mentioned, Christopher, there seemed to be a little bit of aggro every now and then. With the Elephants coming back, it was the good old days when we were the EP Elephants. There was excitement that we were wearing these colors again, and that we're going back to our origins and all that stuff. That definitely, for one, as PE side, seems to be great. But like you mentioned, Christopher, now you've got the experience and leadership from Coach Peter de Villiers, who's been with the Springboks, who's beaten the Lions, who's beaten the All Blacks. I mean, for that type of mentor to come down to you guys and to teach you in a whole new era, where you guys as Elephants have the opportunity to show the world in this provincial franchise cup that we're going to have. It's now your guys' time to shine and just show that Eastern Province rugby is still alive and will be alive for time to come. So I'm excited for the Elephants, and I think that's the way we should all think on that. Let's forget about the past and the negatives and focus on the good times that you guys will do in the EP jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every single rugby player out there wants to be coached by a Bokke coach. So, like I say, I'm excited to play for him, and I don't think I'm the only one.
Inny, from your perspective, obviously, Peter obviously contacted you. I think Tandu Manana probably contacted you as well to come in. But what, playing under someone like Peter, have you learnt, and what has that sparked inside you to get the zest back to play at the top level again?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, Coach Peter de Villiers' record speaks for itself. One of the more successful Springbok coaches in recent times. And once you get to know him, you really get to pick his brain and see the level of depth, knowledge that he has. The one thing I'm really, really enjoying is the fact that he's allowing his players to express themselves and literally play what they see out in the field and not play according to a structure. Not if you do go out and try something on the field and it doesn't come off. So the license to really go out and play is something that I'm really enjoying at the moment. You sometimes get into an environment where a coach is very, very tough on you and very by the book and according to a script. And that can sometimes take away the flair that players, that natural flair that some players do have. So Coach Peter is really a coach that allows you to go out and express yourself. And I think in my younger days, that was something that really put me on the map. And having a coach who's going to back that ability is something that I'm really enjoying right now.
And my final thing, and Reenen, please feel free to chip in after this, guys. And again, I mean this with the utmost respect to the to Eastern Province as well. And I think it's and this is a real chance for you personally as well as a team. We really want the team to do well, but personally, this is a real chance to put yourselves in the shop windows. And I don't mean that because Eastern Province should be beneath anybody else. I mean it that the other provinces have got opportunities to play in bigger leagues. Yeah. How much of that has crossed your mind, maybe Chris, that you've had a little view of the peak of the mountain and you wouldn't mind getting back up there? In fact, both of you can answer one after each other. Do you see this as a real opportunity to put yourselves in the shop window?
I think definitely, and like you say, it's not necessarily from an individual point of view, but I mean, I'm just excited to be, not to say playing at the top, but playing first class rugby again. And it felt like I was sort of getting into my groove just before COVID hit. So now to be sort of back on track, and I'm really excited for next week. And it was good to sort of be playing top class rugby again.
Mm. And for you, Inny, sorry, just 2 seconds. Inny, do you see this as a real opportunity for you to maybe get one of the franchises that are fortunate to be playing in bigger leagues?
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with Chris. It's definitely not an individual thing. It is, it is a nice opportunity and a nice platform for yourself to go and showcase what you've got, and hopefully attract some sort of interest from other unions, whether it be in South Africa or across the world. So the nice thing is that it's a lot of exposure for the guys in our squad who haven't really had a lot of rugby in the last 12 to 15 months. And it's also just a good reminder for the rest of the rugby public in South Africa, just to say, hang on, listen, I can still, because I've still got some ability and keep knocking on doors. So it really is a good opportunity for guys to go and get some exposure now. In this franchise.
Awesome.
Well, I'm excited for some reason. This whole EP Elevens thing and this cup that's now ahead of us. Firstly, I'm excited because we're going to have another team that's going to compete. After the unfortunateness of the Kings and the demise there, etc. Plenty of reasons for that. That's not on the agenda here, but it is what it is. I'm very excited to see what this team can do under coach Peter de Villiers, who his CV speaks for himself. But what I'm also very excited about is the fact that this will broaden the player base in South Africa. Now, Gareth, I'm sure you're going to agree with me here. We're losing so many players to overseas clubs. A player just starts playing a decent enough game, and all of a sudden he's got one or two offers on the table, and the Rand struggles to compete. Once he got euros on the table, that guy's gone. So exactly. This is such a healthy injection to see what these guys can do against the so-called more established teams. And I say so-called because Coach Peter is capable of molding a team in no time. We've seen that often. And I'm looking forward to this, really. I can't wait. Can it just start already? I'm very excited.
I think on that point as well is we've got so much great talent, and by having more opportunities like this, where we see these type of tournaments introducing teams like the Elephants, and I mean, it just shows talent. And like Reenen said, you stand out, and then you're taken away. And for the sake of maybe being a little bit selfish for the Eastern Province side, I hope for the sake that you guys in the EP jerseys actually stand out and do well, but do well as a team, so that EP can also stand on its own 2 feet. Because we've had so many players from the past who have left us, from the Kings to the EP in the past, and they've gone on to do great things. It'll be nice to field a strong Eastern Province team again. And I think with inspiration like Peter de Villiers, and then you guys coming up the ranks and getting an opportunity to be on TV again, to show the world what you're made of, I hope for the sake of the province and for the team that we can all stick together and grow and develop, and that Eastern Province can shine and be competitive again, because there's potential. We're just not. The problem is we haven't had the right people at the top. Andy's favorite company name. They are a great example of it. You've got coaches that didn't gel with the players. Now you seem to have that. We've got happiness again in the team. You've got commitment, camaraderie. It's all important flavors to this recipe at the end of the day. And we're now building something great. So for me, I'm happy for Eastern Province again. I know a lot of my colleagues in the Eastern Cape are, from radio to the media. We're hoping and really, really hoping that we're going to see good things. And even if we just show improvement, that is, for me, it's going to be the iconic thing for you guys going forward. And I think it's going to be a good year for Eastern Province. And Reenen said, can this tournament please start already?
And Chris and Inny, what defines success in these games? Has it been spoken about? Is it something you've spoken about as a group? I mean, we can all sit here and go, yeah, win 4 out of 4, but we're all realistic as well. What is going to define success for you guys in this mini tournament?
So I think, it's actually a very good question. So obviously, I think for us to go say, okay, we're going to go out and win 4 out of 4 games is a bit, I don't want to say far-fetched, but we have to be a little bit realistic. So we've sort of decided to focus on a process rather than an outcome. And I think in the recent years, EP, whether it be Kings or Elephants, have struggled with, if I can say, their DNA. I think we try and instill our DNA as sort of the way we play. So if we can play the way we want to play, and I hope I don't disappoint when I say we will be sort of moving the ball and trying to bring sort of a different picture to our South Africa scene rugby was over the last few weeks. But just to answer that question, it's more a process sort of base, not really outcome based.
Awesome stuff. Well, listen, we wish you all the luck in the world. You've got a lot of fans out there who are rooting for you, and I think from my side of things, I just want to reiterate what sort of GMAN said earlier. Is it's become very noticeable that there's a good feeling coming out of that squad now. Usually the media are there to crucify people, but they've been painting a very, very energetic picture of you guys. So yeah, from our side of things, we're looking forward to it. I believe I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but stuff I'm going to. I believe your games have been moved to the Sunday for television. Is that might be a slight rumour going round. So yeah, listen, we look forward to seeing you on the TV. But gents, we've got 2 subjects coming up. Are you happy to stay around for an extra 20 minutes today? Because I think you might be quite good to chip in on them.
Yeah, we can stick around.
Just tell the Uber driver to you sticking around. I'll tell him. Right, let's move on. There's actually been lots of good news coming out this week, and the first one is that schools rugby can go back to training. Obviously, you boys play some decent stuff as well. I think any of you at St Stithians, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Queenstown, Chris, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised Reenen hasn't mentioned yet, but he was at Boys Eye. Clearly wasn't A team, but that's all right. But he's but back training this week. Look, it was a tough year last year. Like I live in Parlour. I missed even I missed inter schools. It's just the most amazing thing. And just on a rainy Saturday to go and watch rugby, it reminded me of being back in the UK. So, Reenen, great news. Try and put some perspective on how big that news is for schools rugby.
Yeah, Andy, I'm just so happy, Look, from a personal point of view, I love schools rugby. In South Africa, it's massive. I mean, I don't even need to say that. People, when they plan their weekends, they plan it around schools games, and then maybe there's a Bokke test. And only then does provincial rugby come into the reckoning. And it was a long year. It was such a long year without it. And as things stand, once the games get going, it's probably going to be in empty stadiums, but so be it. I mean, just to have it back will be such a pleasure. I cannot wait. The joy and the energy that a school game brings, that's just next level. I'm so looking forward to it. And also, You know, these kids, they need to be active. And last year was such a tough year. Everybody's staying at home and online classes and all that. That's not good for a growing kid of 16 or 15 years old who needs to really, he needs to develop his body. That's a fact. And this can now be brought back into the reckoning. So I'm very excited about that. Really, I can't wait.
On that note, Reenen, how do you think, or James, you can maybe answer this one as well. You know, you mentioned you're not going to have the crowds in. I mean, these guys are used to having their peers with them, chanting with them. It's going to be a great learning curve for these guys they're so used to having the crowds and the school kids to play on a pitch where there's nothing going around, and to physically hear the tackles, hear the shouts, hear the referee, hear everything going around from the coach. It's going to be interesting to see how they adapt to that, because we've already seen it in the international and provincial platform of rugby that it's been quite a challenge. It's gonna definitely be a challenge for the youngsters. How do you think they will adapt? I mean, obviously the coaches will have plans ahead of them.
Gareth, I think concentration and focus is actually going to be a little bit of a problem for them initially. I've heard one or two seasoned provincial players say that the adaptation or the adapting to an empty stadium and no noise and no atmosphere, it actually puts them off. You know, they were used to packed stadiums were at least 75% full week in and week out. And I remember Rhino Smith was one of our shows a while back, and he said the teams feed off the crowd. When it's not going well, you feed off the guys cheering you on. That gives you that extra 10%, and off you go again. But with regards to focus, I think those kids are going to have a problem initially to keep their focus. For some reason, the silence and the absence of an atmosphere actually takes their mind off the game. I couldn't believe it when I heard it, but I mean, I'm not the provincial player. Those guys are. They say it, then it's the truth. So, but Inny, what do you think? What do you think? How would it feel for you as a grade 12 kid at St. Stithians to run out and there's nobody? It's I would have.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think it's going to be a huge mental adjustment for them. You know, especially being at that age. But I do think, however, the fact that they haven't had rugby in so long, they'll really be itching to get out onto the park. And hopefully that excitement of having rugby again will sort of overweigh the fact that there is no crowd and there is no atmosphere. But yeah, definitely it's going to be tough for them. I think they are used to having the peers around them. Obviously, it brings a whole lot of vibe. There's some great unity, a lot of war cries, so that is going to be very different for them. But yeah, I think if they can get that right, that's just that excitement, turning that excitement into focus, then I don't think it should be a real big problem for them. The other thing you need to remember is, so the matrics or the grade 12s that are, or the current grade 12s of this year, would have probably played second team rugby last year or under 16 rugby last year. And they wouldn't have had that experience of playing in front of an entire school, hundreds of people watching them play for the first team. So hopefully that is also a mental thing that they won't really carry with them into the season, should there be any competitive rugby for them.
Chris, you must have had some... Sorry, go on, Reenen.
One thing that I want to just add, Andy, you mentioned interschools in Paul earlier. And I want to quote Cornay Krieger here when he was doing one of his zillion interviews as Springbok captain. And he was asked about interschools and the effect that it had on him later in his life. And he said that, and he's on record to say that, the pressure that he felt every time he took to the field in interschools. I mean, as an under 15 kid, you play in front of 20,000 people. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. That molded him for the pressure that he had to be under at a packed Murrayfield or a Stade de France or Newlands. So from an interschools point of view, this is, it's just going to be surreal to have it in front of nobody. And so those kids are going to be robbed of that unique pressure that will bring. But hopefully, it's only going to be this year, and everybody will be vaccinated next year, and blah blah blah, and we'll be back to normal, hopefully, or very close to it. But I just wanted to add that we shouldn't underestimate the value of playing in front of a packed stadium as a 17-year-old. That adds, really.
Yeah, we also need to add that it was your round at the bar this year as well. So I missed out on that, which is a bit more frustrating. Chris, you must have had some serious sympathy for the boys last year all around the country that didn't get to play their big matric into schools or the big derby. How important was the derby to you? I don't know who. Sorry, apologies. I don't know who your derby was, but or your inter-schools was. But how important was that for your personal development, rugby development, and how will it potentially affect the kids that missed out last year? Sorry, I shouldn't call them kids. The matrics from last year.
Yeah, I mean, yes, my heart honestly broke for our school students last year. Because for when I was in school, my favourite thing to do was, obviously being from an all-boys school, was to play in front of my mates and obviously throughout the week talk about the game, after the game and whatnot. I couldn't imagine if I was in a COVID school to play in front of girls, it would have been even better. So yeah, I really feel for the boys, and I mean, there's nothing better than watching live schoolboy rugby, especially as a student. So yeah, it was terrible. Another thing is, for instance, with myself, if I had never played my matric year of rugby, I don't know if I would have gotten a contract out of school. Therefore, I don't know if I would have been able to get the opportunity of playing rugby after school. So, yeah, really, my heart was breaking for the boys.
Yeah.
Chris, sorry if I can interrupt you, Andy. Sorry for that. Chris, I'm so happy that you brought up that point of if you were in matric last year, would you be sitting here now with an Eastern Province contract, coaching, being coached by a guy like Peter de Villiers? And I'm maybe going to sound slightly pessimistic. I hope I don't. But the All Blacks have got a massive advantage here once again, because they got control in their country in no time. All right, and they were back at it in no time. Kids were playing rugby. So where we had last year, and I think plenty of those players, we're going to have a generation gap, very slightly, but we are, because we're going to lose so many players that didn't play rugby last year, and they're going to fall through the cracks. Where New Zealand is not going to have that. So I think in 4 or 5 years, we may see them hold a slight advantage over, probably the rest of the world once again, with regard to their younger players. All of a sudden, we're going to see younger players coming through in New Zealand. The rest of the world is going to slightly lag behind. I may be wrong. I hope I am. But I don't think I am. I think they're going to hold a slight advantage there.
Just on that point, Reenen, remember those guys have to tour as well. So when they come to the likes of South Africa, England again, they're going to have no crowds, and then we will blitz them. So it's no problem.
Reenen's just making excuses already. That's all he's doing. You're just making excuses already, Reenen.
No, not at all. That's not me, that Andy. I can take it on the nose. I can take it on the nose, wipe off the blood, and carry on. I can do that.
Remember, the All Blacks had a crowd last year, and they lost to Argentina. South Africa will get them. Don't you worry.
Yeah, but if you
they couldn't beat the Wallabies at home as well. Remember that?
Yeah, but at least Argentina turned up, boys?
I'll put myself into that one.
Yeah. But speaking of the Southern Hemisphere, G-Man, got a few rule changes coming in, which I'm very... Oh, I've lost my camera. Very interested to hear your opinion on, and then obviously the professional players within us.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm actually quite excited to see a few things. A few things stand up for me. One, obviously, is the red card. The fact that we are seeing Players getting brought in after, I think it's 20 minutes. I think it's about 20. I think that's great. I think it gives an opportunity for the game to flow, still get punished a bit, but you can have things going. More free kicks for Super Rugby Australia, whereas Aotearoa is not doing it. But for me, out of all the different types of law variations, I'm actually very excited for captain's referral. I think it's an opportunity for the boys to approach the referee, to question certain decisions, to change a few things here and there. Obviously, there's calls that we've seen that's happened in Six Nations that are questionable, and all the other past rules. So I think if it works for Aotearoa, I think more and more people will talk about it. So for me, out of all of them, the red card I'm excited about, and a captain's referral. I think it's about time players get the opportunity to challenge and question here and there, obviously within respect and in their own rulings and stuff. But it's an opportunity for them to say, "Can we have a look at this again? Because you might have missed something here and there, or my player says he got hit in the head. Let's have a check."
I'd love to ask Chris and Inny's thoughts on this red card, because I agree with you now. If you'd have asked me probably 2 years ago, I'd been like, no, you've got to do something really, really silly to get a red card. But now it's just hit the ruck a little bit too high and catch them. We've seen it in the Six Nations already. So from Chris and Inny, obviously, you know, you boys don't go near any rucks anyway, so you'll be all right. But is it something that the forwards are worried about at all? This red card thing, because I actually now believe that the 20 minutes they can't come back on, but another player come back on, is actually a pretty good move.
Yeah, I definitely think it's sort of taking away from the physical nature of rugby. I mean, we heard a couple of weeks ago Dwayne's comments to the referee about playing touch rugby now. So I definitely do think the forwards in particular are feeling a bit confined in terms of what they are allowed to do and how they can sort of utilize their size and their muscle that they do have. But then again, it comes back to the point of player safety. So, you know, player safety is of utmost importance, and that needs to come first. You know, so yeah, it is a very tricky one, but one that we just have to, tough pill to swallow, but one that we just have to.
Yeah, the other one one of the ones that worries me is this goal line dropout, because it's very rugby league, and I think it's going to encourage. Actually, sorry, probably a question again for you, Inny. But if you were in that position and Chris as a centre, you'll kick a bit as well. It's not going to change the mindset, the attacking mindset, to go, well, do you know what? If we can just land this ball in that spot. And they've got to run it out, I suppose, to get out of the area, which could make it exciting. But are we just going to see kick after kick after kick after kick?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the goal line dropouts, along with the time limits on the kickoffs, I think that's going to encourage a lot more running rugby. And I think that's really one thing that's exciting to look forward to. Obviously, if you have a guy like a Cohen Bosch who can drop goals 60 meters, then you know that's always a valuable weapon to have in terms of that goal line dropout. But other than that, I think teams might look to try and retain the ball from their goal line dropout, just because whoever is kicking might have a lack of distance and they won't be able to exit out of their half sufficiently. So I think it might encourage a little bit more ball in hand type of rugby, which is always exciting, and I think that's really what the fans want.
No, absolutely. Chris, is there any that stick out for you in there that you'd love to have in the game at the moment?
Yeah, I think just on what Inny said, I mean, if I was a 10 or even as a 12, maybe even as a 9, I mean, I'd look to try kick the ball and get the opposition to dot the ball into the goal line every single time, because I mean, then they're forced to kick back in a vulnerable position. So I think it has its benefits of running rugby, because obviously the team will try not to let the ball go into the goal line, but I think this might also make the opposition kick a lot. So yeah, it's 50-50.
Yeah, Reenen, is there anything that stick out? stick out for you that you think will really affect the game negatively or positively?
I want to see it in practice happen first before I can honestly give you a proper answer on that. But what I do, the one proposed rule change, the red card with the 20 minutes, I'm in favor of that. You hit a red card in the first 5 minutes for whatever reason, and the team is behind the 8 ball for the rest of the game. It can take away a spectacle. If you've got 2 evenly matched teams and this happens, then the one team's just going to inevitably win it at some stage. Where this evens the playing field ever so slightly. Yes, the sanctioned player is still not coming back and he's still going to receive his ban. That's how it should be. But he can now be replaced after 20 minutes, if I understand it correctly. And I think that is in favor of a more fair situation. With regards to the rest, we'll have to see how it plays out. There are 2 schools of thought, the one saying more running ruck, the other saying more kicks. I think that's up to each team how they interpret it. And how they're gonna make it happen from their side. But no, the red card, I'm in favor of that. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, cool. I like the 50-20-20, 50-22 kick and the 22-50 kick. I think that for me is going to become a skill rather than sort of trying to land it somewhere. That's going to be quite a skillful kick. But I'm going to now ask everybody, what is one rule currently that you would, if you could just get into World Rugby, change? And I will start, because nothing winds me up more than a train at the back of a ruck, right? These Exeter Chiefs love it in the UK, and I would change that tomorrow. I don't know how I'd do it. I'd probably just limit the sort of back foot. Once it's set, nobody else can join that, and whatever. But GMAN, is there anything when you watch it, apart from the scrum taking 20 minutes, is there anything you would change right now, like rule wise?
I think it all depends. I think certain tackles that are made, there's a certain individual that you know very well coming from your side, who needs to be watched a little bit more for his favourite's arm. But I don't know. The rulings on rugby is so different. 1 minute you can tackle, I don't know, consistency, I think, is the main thing if I could change something. If a tackle is high or not, and then the next week another guy gets tackled for the exact same reason, there needs to be a firm rule, because 1 minute it's illegal, the next it's advertised. So for me, that shoulder tackle, how the hell do you do it? Do we do it like Owen Farrell, or do we do it like someone else who won't get a card or will get a card? It's just that I want consistency in the tackling area.
Can't go away with anything with the Twitter TMOs nowadays, mate. Reenen?
And I want to go slightly wider, and you're not going to see this coming, but you're going to agree with me. I guarantee you that. The rules are changed too much, too often.
Yes.
What's a rule this year? And
Well
then
said.
6 months later, everybody's confused. Just look at the breakdown. A guy like PJ Thunder, he bosses it, but he's just about the only guy in World Rugby that gets it right every single time. My proposition would be, yes, change the rules, but only every second year. So once you've had rule changes, a total of 2 years have to go until you can change again. That'll give more consistency, because the Afrikaans word is the so de mekaar. Nobody knows what's going on. And I think if they can extend, the time, because rules are changing annually, I say make it biannual.
Boys, what about you? What just winds you up when you're on the field that you just would love to change tomorrow, rules wise?
I think I wouldn't say it's really a rule, but if I could sort of change one thing about rugby, I think I'd make a try, the actual scoring of the try worth maybe 6 or 7 points rather than 5, because I feel sometimes the team works so hard to score a try, and then the opposition will get 2 quick penalties and they're in front again, which sometimes I feel like you work so much harder for a try, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Inny?
Yeah, I think the one rule for me that sticks out is the ball crossing the plane of touch, whether it's in or out. I just think there needs to be some clarity on that. We obviously saw in the Currie Cup final where Apolele Fassi jumped in to catch that penalty kick. Apparently it was so I just think there needs to be a little bit of clarity on that. And then also just the consistency in calls from game to game.
Yeah, I think the Johnny May try at the weekend's the perfect example of this. My personal thought is if Rico Ioane does that, everyone's like making it a gif and telling everyone he's the greatest player in the world, but I'm not bitter about it. But I do also see the point that he tried to jump away from the tackle. I completely get it. So I think consistency is what everyone just really, really wants nowadays, isn't it? So
I love what Joe's saying. What Joe's saying here, box kicking should be a rule. Don't do it. That's something that irritates the hell out of me every now and then as well. Especially when Faf used to go through a stage of box kicking everything. Unless you're Conor Murray, don't do it. I agree with you, Joe.
Well, I tell you what, they brought in Varsity Cup a few years, but there's still a rule in Varsity Cup is that you can take any box kick, you can call a mark anywhere in the field if you take it cleanly, which means the box kick has to be spot on and competitive, which then all of a sudden makes the game way more competitive. You can get a mark on the halfway line and then start looking. You can take quick taps. You can. If someone's attacking and chasing that kick, there's going to be space in behind, which I actually really like that rule. And touching on Chris's point about the tries again, Varsity Cup, because I love Varsity Cup. If you score from inside, the move starts from inside your own half. It's a 7-point try. So maybe there's a middle ground on the amount of points a try's worth.
And
just play.
Andy, just to give you the other side of the coin regarding the more points for a try. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, you can have isn't it in Varsity Cup that you can have a 9-point try, have a 5-point try, 7 points, and a 9-point?
Yeah, exactly that. So
so now you play a game. We're pouring with rain at the Green Mile in Cape Town, and the wind howls. And for you happen to build up a 9-point lead, 3 penalty kicks in a tight thriller. You lead 9-0 with 2 minutes to go. Okay, you deserve to win that game. Then they catch you on the break with a 9-pointer, kick the conversion. You've got 80% possession, 80% territory, blah, blah, blah. You lose the game. Not that fair, is it?
Well, if they're scoring a length of the field try, if they're scoring a length of the field try in the wind of the rain halfway up Table Mountain, then it probably is worth 9 points under the posts. So it's a good debate, though. It's a good debate. Finally, let's sort of start to wrap this up. It's gone flown by again tonight. Final questions for Inny and Chris. Guys, 12-month plan. Where do you see Eastern Province? Where do you see? That's a bit too big a question, I suppose.
Number one in the country.
Yeah. Just smashing 50 on the balls every week. It's fine.
Here we go. Come on, boys. Here we go.
All right. Are you positive that you're going to be playing some really good rugby in front of some decent-sized crowds?
Yeah, I think the foundation has been laid. We've put in a lot of hard work in the past few months in terms of work, conditioning, that kind of thing. And then the style of play that Coach Peter has brought in has really, really captured a lot of interest from the squad. So yeah, I think the amount of courage and heart that we're going to play with is going to strike a chord with a lot of rugby fans in South Africa and around the world. And then the style of play that we're going to be playing, I think, is also going to draw some attention. So I definitely think we in for a fascinating couple of months.
That's awesome. And you, Chris, are you looking forward to this challenge and way beyond it?
Yeah, I think it's to think about 12 months' time. It's difficult to think about, but I think on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, just the preparation cup coming up now. I think as a squad to focus on that and then focus on what comes after that is probably best. Like I say, to think about what tournament we've been playing in 12 months is, yeah, I don't know.
Just keep on keeping on, as they say. Yeah. One bit of news I just want to share that's come out this evening, which is great news. Again, we're full of positivity tonight, which I'm not always. Is that, and this gentleman will please your forwards coach no end, is that South African Women's Rugby have decided to appoint a high performance manager. Her name is Lynn Cantwell. She is the former Irish rugby captain and will be coming over to head the high performance unit of women's rugby in South Africa. Brilliant. Now, we are massive advocates of women's rugby on Drie Bokke and the BlitzBOD rugby group. So we are going to get on our agent Van Staden, as we like to call her, Ilse, who lives in Ireland now, and see if we can bring you some more women's content, which we've done in the past. But I just think that's a fantastic move, G-Man, eh?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I think brings in the experience and everything, and we can get some women's rugby on the map again in South Africa and around the world.
Yeah, it's not like they've got a too tough World Cup group. Yeah, but finally, gents, thanks so much for this evening. It's been such a cracking insight to what's happening at Eastern Province. We can feel the buzz that you and the squad have inside you and getting ready for next week's game. We wish you all the luck in the world. And let's just go out there. Please play the style of rugby that we're all expecting to see, because it would be so refreshing not to see the leather kicked off a ball for 80 minutes, as we seem to be seeing at the moment. And a final reminder for everyone, we've moved our Facebook page, okay? So we're not on the Three Blokes, a Ball and a Bod. We are now on, which there's a lot of people on that, but they're not very engaged. So now we've got the engaged one, and it's called the BlitzBOD Rugby Group, and all the shows are on there. So the Drie Bokke's on there, the sort of marquee show, the Three Blokes is on there, the Welsh Rugby Roundup, the Leinster show, the Ulster show, they're all on there. So give that a follow for us. Don't forget to share. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another show full of mildly interesting people, more interesting than me and G. But until next time, take care, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.